You can make any diet work if you know this information. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. This is Nutrition 101. I'm just going to go over some basics of diet and nutrition. This isn't going to cover everything, but this is kind of like a foundational information that I do believe everybody should know. And if you don't know, that's okay. That's why I'm making the video. There are a lot of people that don't know this kind of information. Just the other day, I talked to somebody who told me they didn't know the difference between a calorie and a carb, and my mind just about exploded. And before I get started, I just want to say thank you to everyone who watched my introduction video. Way more people watched that than I was anticipating. So time is valuable, so I truly appreciate all the time spent watching that by everybody. Thank you so much. So what is a calorie? It's not the devil, even though a lot of people might think that. You don't need to avoid them. You need them. They are essential to everything. A calorie is just energy, and everything we do burns energy. This is why we need calories. If you remember back in the day when you learned about the circle of life and the transfer of energy and all that, animals would eat grass, get energy. Other animals would eat those animals, or we eat the animals, and we get that energy that way. It's all a transfer of energy. That's because food, at the end of the day, is energy. That's why we eat it. What has happened is that we have now reached a point where we have an excess of energy. We eat more food than we need. Back in the hunter or gatherer days, you would not have this endless supply of food like we have now. You would go maybe days without food. So what our body does is when you eat an excess amount of food or an excess amount of energy, the body stores that energy for later. Our bodies are kind of like a phone. A phone has a maximum amount of energy that it can have, right? We have 100%. So our bodies, when they get to that 100% of energy, we have to do something with that other energy that we're giving our body. Now, what we do is we actually store it as fat, the dreaded fat stores that everyone has. This serves a purpose. The reason we have these fat stores is because back in the day, we might have a few days where we don't have as much food as we require for everything that we're doing that day. So now we need to actually draw on those reserves and use that fat as energy, right? So as your phone, let's say your phone gets to zero because you didn't eat that day. Let's say your phone gets to zero. Well, you can't just not do anything. You can't just die, right? So you have to draw on some energy. And so we literally use our fat stores as energy. It's an energy source. That's all our fat stores are. What this means is that you can actually manipulate where you're getting your energy from. So the goal of any diet is to not use the energy from the food we're eating throughout the day and to actually draw on the energy from our fat stores. In order to do this, we need to eat just enough to give us energy throughout the day, but not too much that we store more energy as fat. We want to actually burn the fat that we have already. There's plenty of fat on our bodies to use. The trick is getting to the point to use them. So if you think of it like this, food is short-term energy, fat is long-term energy. I know that might be a crude way to think about it, but everything you eat in the day should be used in that day. We should use all the food that we're eating in a day. We need to figure out how much energy we're burning in a day. This is possibly the most important thing that you can learn about yourself in any sort of diet or exercise sense. If you can kind of get a general trend for how much you are burning in a day, any diet will work for you. You can make any diet work if you know this information. Because at the end of the day, all diets are about manipulating calories. You have to burn through what you eat in the day before you can start burning the fat of your body. If you are constantly eating exactly what you burn every day, you're never going to burn fat, no matter what you do. You can do 7 marathons in a day, but you will never burn fat if you're not using what you eat in a day. You have to use it all. Okay, so let's talk about where these calories are coming from. It's coming from protein, carbs, and fats. 4 calories per every gram of protein, 4 calories for every gram of carbs, and 9 calories for every gram of fat. So as you can already kind of tell, fat has more than double the calories per gram of protein and carb. This is why typically you see diets cut out fat to cut on calories. Because at the end of the day, if you're trying to lose weight, you are going to have to cut calories. You'll hear lots of different things. People will tell you that you can't lose weight because of this, or you have to do this to lose weight. There's all these different things out there. But at the end of the day, if how many calories you burn in a day, not just from exercise, but from just existing, if the amount of calories you burn in a day is higher than what you eat, you will burn fat. You have to get to that point though. Your body will not burn fat unless your expenditure is higher than what you're taking in. You have to drain the battery. You need all 3 macros in order to live: protein, carbs, and fat. Those are your 3 macros. If you've ever heard counting macros, that's what they're talking about. They're counting their protein, they're counting their carbs, and they're counting their fats. You need all 3 of these. You technically only need protein and fat to not die, but depending on who you ask, if you're cutting carbs, you might as well be dead. So I know people that would rather die than give up French fries or give up breads and things of these natures. None of them are inherently bad for you. We have kind of gotten to this cycle. If you actually look at what is popular or fad diets or all these things, they'll just pick something, say it's the worst for you, say cut it out, and then you'll lose weight or be healthy or whatever it is. They do this all the time. Cutting carbs was a big one. Cutting fats was a big one. Obviously, no one's decided to cut protein yet, but I'm sure eventually, if we ate a bunch of protein, they would probably pick that, because at the end of the day, all of these diets work because they are cutting calories. Where you get your calories from does matter, but not as much as people like to make out. The single most important macro, bar none, is protein. Protein is the #1 macro that you need. I know that sounds like maybe a gym bro kind of stance, but I promise you, whether you're 80 and have never worked out in your life, or you're 5 years old, or anywhere in between, whether you work out, whether you don't work out, protein is the #1 macro that you need for your body to function. It is the most important. Please get your protein. All 3 of the macros serve their purpose. Protein is going to help build and maintain muscle, whether you're trying to build muscle, whether you're trying to burn fat. Protein is essential. Carbs are used for energy. I eat carbs all the time. I use it for especially when I'm in a calorie deficit, I love having carbs because I need energy. Like we talked about earlier with the energy reserves, if I'm not constantly flooding my body with as many calories, with as much energy as it had, I need as much energy as I can get. And for me, that means a lot of carbs. I do prefer a lot of carbs. My body feels better with a lot of carbs. They call me Captain Carbohydrate at work because I'll bring a loaf of bread to work, just an entire loaf of bread. And I'll eat it throughout the day because I want energy in my workouts. Fats are also essential. I know it can be tempting to eliminate fats altogether because of how many calories there are per gram, but it is essential for the body to function properly. You have to have some sort of fats. Cutting fats will help you feel fuller because you'll be able to get more food for how many calories that you have. But cutting fats out altogether is that's not going to work. So the single most important thing to do when you're trying to lose weight is to cut these calories. You have to cut the calories to a point where they're lower than what you're expending. All of the major diets work by cutting calories, whether you realize it or not. Keto diet works by cutting carbs out. We as a society eat a lot of carbs, and we tend to overeat on carbs. We don't just stop at one potato chip. We eat the entire bag of potato chips, which has a lot of fat in it too. But we eat a lot of bread, we eat a lot of rice. We'll eat so many carbs that we'll end up overeating unintentionally. So when you're on a keto diet, it's much harder to overeat. You're eating proteins and fats that are very satiating, and this will help you not overeat. At the end of the day, all a keto diet is doing is stopping you from eating as many calories. If you're doing intermittent fasting, you've now restricted the amount of time that you're allowed to eat. The window of when you're allowed to eat restricts the amount of calories you're allowed to have during a day. If you're eating, instead of eating 16 hours a day, you're now eating 8 hours a day, there's only so many calories you can fit in the 8 hours as opposed to what you could fit in the 16 hours. This does not mean that there's any added benefits of doing the fasting. It is literally just the amount that you're eating is now less. Now, this doesn't mean that these are bad diets. Whether you're doing fasting or keto or carnivore or all these different diets, they all work the same way. There's just different paths to the same goal. The path can be different, but the goal is the same. The goal is to lower the amount of calories. This can be achieved by many different ways. Whatever diet it is, you can pick. I think it was Greg that used to always joke about it. Is you could pick any sort of diet. Call it the egg and cheese diet, where all you eat is eggs and cheese. But if you eat the eggs and cheese in a low enough amount, then you'll lose weight, because that's all it comes down to. You just lower the amount of calories and you will lose weight. Now, the next thing we need to talk about is starvation mode. This is probably something you've heard a lot. This started gaining traction a few years ago, that because people would basically cut their calories, like I'm talking about. They would cut them down ridiculously low, feel terrible, just feel absolutely awful, and then stop losing weight. Now, what was actually happening, this starvation mode does not exist in the sense that people think about it. People think about it as if you cut your calories low enough that your body will literally stop burning fat. That it will go, I'm not going to burn any more fat because I'm about to die. Not how it works. Scientifically speaking, just think about that. That would literally be creating energy from nothing. What's actually happening is, typically, if you cut your calories too low, you will feel miserable. You will feel terrible. The body's trying to use its energy, but there's just nothing there. You can only draw so much from our fat reserves. What is actually happening is that when you cut your calories so low, you'll feel miserable, and then you'll want to do nothing. You will then lay around and do nothing. You'll lay on the couch all day and just do nothing, because you have no energy to do anything. You'll stop working out. So if I'm moving like this, you'll now want to move like this, and you'll just sit there like this, because every movement is energy you don't have. Now, what that means is all the calories that I would normally burn, I'm now not burning, because there's just no energy left. You have no energy to do anything. So what this means is, starvation mode as we know it is not a thing, but you can cut your calories too low. You should only cut your calories low enough to burn fat, but have your life be livable. You have to enjoy whatever diet you pick. No matter what diet you pick, you have to think about it in the long term. If you're not going to be able to do a diet for at minimum a year, then it's probably not the right diet for you. If I was talking about keto earlier and I was talking about cutting all the carbs, no longer eating French fries and no longer eating bread, and that made you go, I would literally die. Well, then keto's not for you. You can lose weight other ways. You don't have to lose weight that way. You can cut calories in a million different ways, or burn more calories in a million different ways. You have to pick something that you are going to be able to do for the long term. This is all a long-term race. Any progress you're going to make, diet, fitness, exercise, all that, is going to be long-term progress. You have to think long-term about this. Crash diets and all that kind of stuff, we know this now. We've studied it extensively. If you look at diets, they say 98 or 95 or whatever it is, diets don't work. Well, yeah, because they're not picking. It's just a fad diet. It's just a diet that isn't specialized to the individual. You have to pick a diet that you'll be able to do long term. What you have to do is you have to cut your calories low enough in order to lose weight. So, how do we know how much that is, right? You'll find these calculators that will calculate how many calories you burn. These are nice for a general guideline, but everybody's different, and obviously answering 7 questions isn't going to tell you one of the most complicated things there is, which is how much energy you're burning in a single day. But what you can do is figure it out on your own. This is something everybody should know. Everybody should know, if they're interested in diet, fitness, losing weight, gaining weight, no matter what it is, everybody should know roughly how many calories they burn. I know that if I eat 3,500 to 4,000 calories, I will not gain weight, I will not lose weight, I will be exactly the same every single day. I will go weeks the exact same weight. That means if I'm trying to lose weight, I need to eat under that number, and if I'm trying to gain weight, I need to eat over that number, given everything the same. Now, Obviously, life is not always going to be the same. Life is ups and downs, and everything changes constantly. What you have to do is find an average. So what I recommend, given anybody who's trying to make progress, whether it's losing weight or gaining weight, in order to calculate how many calories you burn, you need to know how many you're eating. When it comes to calculating your calories, you need to have an app, whether it's MyFitnessPal, Chronometer, there's a million different ones. I think Calories Plus is one. You need to have an app that you can log how many calories you're eating in a day. Now, this can also be done pen and paper. You can be old school. You can just write it down. But we've gotten to a point in our society, it's actually very nice. We can look up everything we eat. Now, some nutrition labels are a little off, but for the most part, don't overthink it. You can look at any label, you can write down what you're eating, you can calculate it during the day. Write down and see how many calories you're eating. Before we even do macros, calculate the calories because you need to know roughly how much you're eating. If you're eating 3,000 calories a day and you're going up in weight, every single week you're going up in weight, well, 3,000 calories is too high. You need to lower the number from 3,000 to until you find a point where you're losing weight. Now, once you have an average, it really helps to have like maybe a week-long average. Calculate what you're going to have in the total week because every day is different. What the activity that you're doing in a day and what you're eating in a day it's different. Have maybe a weekly average of what you eat every day. So I found when I first started losing weight and I was being serious about it, I cut my calories down to 2,300. I cut them down to 2,300 and every single day I was starving. I was so hungry. Every single day I was at work all day, feeling like a zombie. I felt miserable. Now, I lost weight, but I felt terrible. And I was losing a lot of weight. I was losing, 3 to 4 pounds a week. This is way too much. The body can only burn so much fat in a day. I hate to break this to people. Anyone who loses weight very quickly, just understand that there's only so much fat your body can burn. So if your deficit is so great that you are burning 3 to 4 pounds a week, you are burning other things than just fat. You're losing muscle. You're losing all these things that are just your body trying to burn whatever it can for energy. Your body doesn't just burn fat for energy. It will burn other things as well. Muscle is a big one. If your deficit is too great, it will now be detrimental to you. You can't have it so great that you're feeling miserable and that your body is now looking for things other than fat to burn. It's just not good for long-term success. Okay, so now you have a baseline and you know roughly how many calories you're burning. You can then play with it. This is a long-term journey. This is not something that you're going to figure out overnight. You're not going to magically know how many calories you need or how many calories you burn overnight. It's just not the way it works. You can track it week to week. So find a number, pick a number. You can use the online calculators to get a general idea and maybe see. If it tells you that you need 1,800 calories, let's say, and you eat 1,800 calories every day, and you track everything you're eating, you use the apps I talked about, you wrote it down, you weigh your food. I'll have an entire video talking about the scale because food scale is arguably the most important thing that you'll ever invest. $10 food scale will help you lose weight better than anything else. But you've tracked everything, and you take that number, 1,800, that's your number. And then every single day you eat 1,800. And 2 weeks go by. What has the scale changed? Are you up in weight? Are you lower in weight? What does the scale say? If you're exactly the same weight and it's been 2 weeks, you might need to start lowering the calories. Or you can do more exercise, you can do more cardio, more lifting weights. You can track week to week your progress. You want to lose roughly 1, maybe 2 pounds a week. If you're losing anything more than that every week, I know some people say that you can't lose enough weight or they want to lose 30 pounds in a day. Well, if you're losing 30 pounds in a day, you're chopping your leg off or something. But you should track how much you're losing every week. If you're losing a pound, perfect. Keep eating that exact amount of calories because you've nailed it. That's awesome. You've nailed exactly how many calories you need to eat. Now eat that number until you stop losing weight. Now when I say you stop losing weight, I don't mean day 1 you've lost this weight and day 3 you haven't lost any weight. No, that's not what I mean. I mean give it 2 to 3 weeks. If you have 2 to 3 weeks of no weight loss and you've done everything right, you haven't cheated on your diet, you've done every single workout that you've been doing, that you haven't been moving less, but you just know that you've done everything right, and you're in your heart of hearts, you know you've done everything right, and the scale is not budging, then and only then would it be time to lower the calories more. If you can keep the smallest amount of deficit and lose weight over time, it will be the best long-term success that you'll have. If you cut your calories way too low, you're not going to be able to do it for the long term. If you can't do it for a year, not the diet. You have to figure out how the diet can be used for long-term success. This is a marathon. I know they always say it's a marathon, not a sprint, but for diet and exercise, it absolutely is a marathon and not a sprint. You have to set yourself up for long-term success. This means that the deficit has to be as small as possible. I recommend personally a 500 calorie deficit. I honestly think you should be within 500 calories, whether it's below or above of what you burn. If you're trying to gain weight, I would say be about 500 calories over what you burn. If you're trying to lose weight, about 500 under. This will allow you to slowly move either direction. If you're trying to gain weight and you up the calories to 2,000 plus surplus, your body's not going to be able to turn that all to muscle. There's only so much fat you can burn in a day, and there's only so much muscle you can build in a day. This means the deficit or the surplus needs to be small. If you're trying to build 2 pounds of muscle a day, well, I hate to break it to you, you're just not going to be able to do that. So all of those extra calories are going to turn to fat. And just like if you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to lose 5 pounds of fat a day, I hate to break it to you, it's not going to happen. Now, I do recommend that everybody tracks what they eat. The number one thing that they should be tracking besides calories, because you need to know calories, you need to know whether you're gaining or losing. Besides that is going to be protein. You have to track your protein. If you track your protein and you're hitting your protein goal, everything else will kind of fall into place. And I truly believe that. Your protein goal needs to be take your body weight. They say multiply by about 0.75 or to 1, and that's how many grams of protein you need. Every day you should be trying to hit this number. When you eat a lot of protein, you feel more full, your body functions better. There's just nothing but benefits from having your protein high, I promise you. So hit your protein goal, and then with the remaining calories, you can kind of divvy it up between fats and carbs. I like to have carbs high. This gives me a lot of energy during the day, gives me energy for my workouts. I notice that if I don't eat a lot of carbs and a lot of what I'm eating during the day is fats, I just don't have the energy in the gym. Not everybody's the same. You can kind of play with it. No matter what you're doing, make sure your protein's high though. There is no exception to that. It's about finding what diet works for you. People are trying to make this more complicated than it needs to be. I'm not saying it's easy. I promise you, I'm not saying it's easy. It has been very hard for me to lose weight. It's hard for anybody to lose weight. It's not easy, but it is simple. There are no secrets when it comes to losing weight. It is very simple. All you have to do is follow those basic principles. I'm not telling you what you can and can't eat because I don't think that that is good for long-term success. If I tell somebody they can never have ice cream again, they are not going to follow that diet. But you have to figure out what works for you. If there are certain foods that you know you can't live without, you're going to have to try to work them in a way that is responsible and that allows you to still make success. There was a week a few months ago where every single dinner I had ice cream. Now, I also calculated my calories because it was 800 for the carton. And so I calculated 800 calories for my dinner every single day that week. And I made sure that my protein was still hit and I still lost weight. This is because I understand how the whole system works. I'm gaming the system. I'm understanding how my body works. I'm understanding what I need to do to lose weight. And this is not something that's groundbreaking. It's something that you can figure out as you kind of track what you're taking in. We are not good at intuitively eating exactly what our bodies need. We're not robots. We can't just eat a food and go 200 calories. Like that's not how it works. We can eat a food and go, "Oh, we're full." But our body doesn't have a calorie detector that it can just detect how many calories were in the food we just ate. If I ate a donut, it wouldn't go, okay, yeah, that was 280 calories. We have to kind of track these things and teach our bodies in a way that just because we cut the calories, it doesn't mean we eat less food, but it might mean that we eat less calorie dense food. The more volume of food we can get for the same amount of calories or less, the easier it's going to be to feel full and the easier it's going to be to lose weight. If you eat a donut for breakfast, a donut for lunch, and a donut for dinner, you're going to be hungry all day. Even if you meet your calories, you're just not going to be satisfied. You can modify a lot of different recipes. Currently, right now, for lunch every single day, I eat a big thing of spaghetti, but it's made with fat-free cheese, it's made with protein pasta, and this allows me to feel full for lunch. It allows me to get exactly the nutrients I need for the gym. It sets me up for success. The more systematic that you make your diet, the more you know exactly how much you're eating, you know exactly how much you're burning, you know what your deficit is, you know what your surplus is. The more you know that, it removes all doubt. I don't want doubt whenever I am trying to accomplish a goal. I want as much security that I can possibly get, that I know every single day I am moving towards that goal. The more you know about your current diet and nutrition, the more you know that every single day you're moving towards the goal that you're trying to accomplish. You have to make progress. It's slow progress and it's daily progress, but that's going to be progress that over time adds up to accomplishing the goal that you set out for. Now, of course, you're going to move back. You know, you'll take 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's just how it goes. But if you know what you need to hit every single day, you know that you'll be able to get back on track and move in the right direction. It might take a little bit of time. These things take time, but you'll move towards where you need to move. So if I had to sum up everything I said today, I probably didn't make it as clear as I meant to, but I set out to make a video that kind of covered the foundational basics of what losing weight and gaining weight is. And at the end of the day, it's so simple that it's almost hard to relay to people how simple it really is. I really wanted to talk about just how the basics work, how you fundamentally lose weight, what you should be eating in the sense of what you should be looking for. You should be looking for low calorie, high protein options, and then don't cut out anything in your diet. Make sure you're still happy every day. Make sure you're still happy on your diet. Thank you for watching. I'm so happy you made it this far. If you have any other questions, please comment down below. Please ask. Just so everyone is aware out there, every single like helps, every single comment helps. If you're trying to help the channel and you just want to comment, say hello in the comments or just anything. Really anything helps. So if you have something that you want to talk about, obviously that's even better. But if you're just trying to help the channel, please like, comment. If you want to share with anybody, that's great. If you don't want to share with anybody, I get it. So thank you so much. Thank you for watching. See you next time.